Good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. Friday, February 27th, we're actually not going to waste any time. President Donald Trump is talking at Joint Base Andrews. Let's head out there right now, live.
That strike could turn into a long, drawn-out conflict in the Middle East.
I guess you could say there's always a risk. You know, when there's war, there's a risk in anything, both good and bad. We've had tremendous luck with myself, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi. Everything's worked out, and then we do the Midnight Hammer and so many others. Everything's worked out, and we want to keep it that way, but we're going to see. Look, it'd be wonderful if they'd negotiate really in good conscience, good faith and conscience, but they are not getting there. So far, Peter, they're not getting there.
And has your team told you that if you use the military now, that there will be regime change right away?
No, nobody's told me that. You don't know. I mean, nobody knows that. There might be and there might not be. When you looked at look, we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. There's nothing close. I'd love not to use it, but failing. Cuba right now is, to put it mildly, a failing nation.
Okay, so for now, it is obvious that there are some audio issues. We were able to hear parts of an answer about what is presumably negotiations with Iran as United States military surrounds that area. We know USS Gerald Ford from right here in Hampton Roads on its way there as well, perhaps already there. But the audio cutting in and out during this press gaggle before President Donald Trump boards a plane. You see how I combined those two words there. Boards a plane for Texas. Let's try one more time to listen in. We apologize for the audio, but we'd love to be able to hear what the president has to say here during this media session. So Nia, can we try one more time? And if it's just too choppy, we'll come out of it and we'll move forward here on Live Impact News. Let's try one more time.
National emergency around the midterm elections.
All right, everybody. That is the quality just not there with that particular press opportunity for President Donald Trump. As you can see, even if that audio was working well, he's sort of moving on down the line there of different sort of press groups. And so I don't know that our feed would be able to hear him anyway. You can see just the sheer amount of press waiting for him. We did get to hear one answer, though, presumably, again, in relation to the international situation in the Middle East. He was asked about war and what kind of risk it was. He said war is always a risk, good and bad. So now it does look like our media team here is sort of recentering themselves. Perhaps maybe they'll go to the end of the line and try to get the president coming around the other side. That's quick work by the ABC media team out there. Let's see here. It looks like it still might be a little while before he gets there. Okay, let's hang here a little bit. We don't mean to disorient you with this. You see the White House back there in the corner, the president having just exited the White House. This is really, really behind the scenes, what you're getting to see right now on Live Impact News, but that's what we're all about. Okay, so let's restart the show, if you will. We didn't get to do our proper introduction because we wanted to get as much of the president as we could, as we thought this would be a pretty brief media session. We hope that this camera action isn't making anyone dizzy, but it also might be an interesting look behind the scenes of some of what we have to do. We typically don't work with crowds of media this large, but it can get chaotic. Everyone's trying to get their shot. It looks like maybe they've reached a place where they'll be able to listen in on the president again. What a choppy start to our Friday edition of Live Impact News, but that's okay. Let's try once more, see if we have audio here.
Down, and prices generally are coming way down. The pricing it's been amazing what we've been able to do in 1 year. Prices are way down, led by energy, led by oil. So it's a little bit of an oil meeting, I would say. Thank you. No, I haven't heard about that.
Okay. The roller coaster continues here with trying to listen in. It looks like once again we have another good angle. You see the hand raised there trying to get some attention, though it is blocking our camera shot here a little bit. Okay, here's what we're going to do. This is going to be our last attempt. It appears as though we've got a good shot and potentially good audio. One more try, and then we'll go elsewhere, okay? I promise. Okay, no audio whatsoever other than some brief static. And there goes the president. He's off, it looks like. We are told he's headed to Corpus Christi, Texas. We do not know what for at this time. But, well, an interesting first 7 minutes of Live Impact News. I thought we were going to get there just in time for that press conference. Instead, we're up, we're down, we're around, different camera angles. And now the president appears as though he is off in Washington, D.C. So we tried. We did the best we could. We appreciate everyone who stayed with us through that. Now, let's just go ahead and say happy Friday, everybody. The People's producer, Nia Campbell's in the house. Nia, what's going on? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Now, Nia, I think it was worthwhile to try and get what we could from that particular live moment, especially with we're on the same week as the State of the Union. There are a number of different stories that continue to swirl around the president and his administration. So I'm glad we tried.
Glad we tried too.
I appreciate your support in that endeavor. Now, Nia Campbell is here. Evan Stewart will be here a little later on. We've got a few live events that are ongoing here that we are going to check in on, but we're actually going to begin today with the main story of yesterday, and that is the Clintons in a closed-door deposition with the House Oversight Committee in relation to the congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Now, yesterday, it was Hillary Clinton who spoke in front of that committee. Today, it will be Bill Clinton who speaks in front of that committee. As far as former President Bill Clinton, this will be the first time that a former president has appeared in front of a congressional panel since Gerald Ford in 1983. And that time was regarding a bicentennial celebration of the Constitution. And so this obviously a far different situation and is largely unprecedented in modern times for a former president to be forced to testify before a congressional panel. And that is happening today. But we want to stay with Hillary's testimony yesterday. When we went off air on Live Impact News yesterday, we had yet to hear from the former Secretary of State, the former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. She was still in the midst of what would ultimately become a 6-hour deposition. Afterwards, Hillary Clinton did exit the building in New York and speak to press. So what we're going to do here to start is we're going to listen to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's comments from yesterday following the conclusion of her, again, 6-hour deposition in front of the House Oversight Committee. Let's take a listen right now.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Good evening. Well, I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew, and what I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance, but whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. We had asked for that. We think it would have been better for the committee and its efforts to gather whatever information they are seeking. We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements. So we had to cease the hearing for a period of time until we could get assurances that no rules would be broken going forward, and we returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times. It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet, that was serving as the basis of a member's questions to me. So I can only say that the best exchange that I had came at the very end, when, contrary to every other deposition they have taken, no Republican member asked any questions about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to anyone else they have deposed. And in fact, the Republican members didn't even show up for the deposition of Les Wexner. And when I said that, I had to point out that the only questions that any Republican member asked of any of the people they deposed was of former Attorney General Bill Barr, when Chairman Comer asked him about the allegations, in his view, about Russia's involvement in my election in 2016. So at the very end of this hearing, after I made that point, I want to commend Chairman Comer for raising a series of significant questions that I responded to about the nature of the investigation and the areas that I thought should be explored. So I appreciated that. I want to see the truth come out. So that was a reassuring way to end a very long, repetitive deposition.
Madam Secretary, you spoke in your opening remarks about how heartbroken you have been for the Epstein survivors as these files have come out. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you have processed and reacted to the fact that the former president, your husband, Bill Clinton, is referenced in the Epstein files numerous times, including in some photos featuring women, and how have you been personally preparing for the deposition that is coming tomorrow? Are you 100% confident that there isn't anything that the former president knows about Epstein's crimes?
I am, and I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light, and that he was charged and sadly given a sweetheart deal, which, as I said in my statement, had that not happened, perhaps his predatory behavior could have been stopped earlier. But I think it is fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what he was doing. And I think that that is exactly what my husband will testify to tomorrow.
Madam Secretary, can I ask? Why was Ghislaine Maxwell?
Do you believe this was a fair hearing? And do you still want to testify publicly, even though you gave this deposition?
Oh, I'm not going to do it again. They had a chance to do it in public, and I wish they had done it in public. And I think they're making the wrong decision, avoiding doing it in public. I thought it was very repetitive. I thought that they asked literally the same questions over and over again, which didn't seem to me to be very productive. And then, as I said toward the end, there were other questions that were totally off subject. So if they are going to fulfill their responsibilities to literally investigate the investigations, which is what they originally said was the scope of their work, I think they could have spent the day more productively.
Madam Secretary, can I ask? James Matthews from Sky News. Can I ask, why was Ghislaine Maxwell invited to the daughter of Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010? She'd already been mentioned in a civil lawsuit by Virginia Giuffre before that. Jeffrey Epstein had already been convicted before that.
She came as the plus one, the guest of someone who was invited.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
What message does it say that
I don't know when the video will be out. I don't know when the transcript will be out. We've asked that they be out as quickly as possible, and then you can see everything. Thank you.
Okay, so Hillary Clinton finishing up her press conference. You see that it was getting dark outside in New York, and of course that deposition started earlier in the afternoon. 6 hours reportedly, that deposition with Hillary Clinton, and then right there at the end, her commenting that they have been requested for the transcript and the video of her deposition to be released publicly as soon as possible. Now, both Hillary and Bill Clinton have, before their depositions, pushed for the depositions to be conducted publicly with public access. It ended up being a private deposition, but now, again, vocal about wanting it to be released to the public. So more to come on that story, not just in the weeks to follow, but for Live Impact News, we're now going to hear from lawmakers who spoke today before the Oversight Committee deposition of Bill Clinton. But before we do that, before we move to sort of portion 2 of coverage of the story involving the Clintons and this congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more on this story. Okay, so I know going into that break, we talked about our continued coverage of the Clintons' deposition in front of the House Oversight Committee, Bill Clinton speaking today. However, we're going to have to rewind here. We're still going to do that. That is still very much in our plans for Live Impact News. Some of you may be frustrated by what I'm about to say, but the president is once again speaking in the same area at Joint Base Andrews that he was when we first began. I would imagine they pulled this feedback up because of a clear video and audio now. We're going to try this again. I want to apologize in advance if the audio doesn't work. We would like the opportunity to hear from the president, being as how this week has developed. So let's give this another shot out at Joint Base Andrews.
I've been hearing about Cuba. I said before, since I'm a little boy, I've been hearing about Cuba. Everybody wanted to change it. I can see that happening. Marco Rubio is dealing on it, and at a very high level. And, they have no money, they have no oil, they have no food. Really, right now, a nation in deep trouble, and they want our help.
Mr. President, later on, Mr. President.
All right, we're done with that. We're not going to try that again. That is clearly not working. We appreciate the sincere effort from all of those out with ABC who are working in that situation, but the audio is just not there for us with President Trump today. So we are going to have to skip out on that. Now, here's what we're going to do instead. We're still working on getting some video together for our continued coverage of the Clinton situation. I do have some more recent reporting on some of what Bill Clinton had to say early in his deposition today. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to simultaneously prepare to read this while asking producer Nia Campbell if you wouldn't mind pulling up the poll that I sent you from Ipsos on our document today that will relate back to some of the Trump coverage that we were attempting to do here. So I'm going to read some of this. We'll go over some of the new polling regarding some of what's happening in our country, and then we will return in full to coverage of the Clintons' deposition, okay? We are jumping around quite a bit today. It's not a bad thing to be on your toes on a Friday. The weekend's coming up. We're going to be sticking and moving all weekend, so it's not bad to start a little bit jumbled here, but we are, I think we're back on the right path, and we're going to be able to be a little bit more focused and singular here in our coverage going forward. Okay, let's begin with some updates from this morning on President Bill Clinton. In his opening statement at that closed-door deposition, he denied any knowledge of the crimes committed by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, going on to say that making his wife Hillary Clinton testify, quote, was simply not right. In his statement as released, he stated that he will often say, quote, I do not recall throughout his questioning because the events were all a long time ago. I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong, Clinton said, according to that statement. Now, this is all a part of the investigation into Epstein. And let's see, we gave some interesting historical anecdotes earlier in terms of the first time that a former president has appeared in front of a congressional panel since Gerald Ford in 1983. But again, that was just regarding the bicentennial celebration of the Constitution. ABC News reporting that this is the first time a former president has been compelled to testify before a congressional panel. So the first time ever that a former president has been compelled to testify before a congressional panel. So he's facing questions under oath about his relationship with Epstein and photos that show the former president with both Epstein and Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. She is currently sentenced to 20 years in prison for sex trafficking and other crimes. Now, of course, we spoke about Hillary Clinton and her testimony yesterday. Well, on Friday, Bill Clinton said he had to, quote, get personal and blasted the committee for forcing his wife to answer questions. Quote, you made Hillary come in. She had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing. She has no memory of even meeting him. She neither traveled with him nor visited any of his properties, he said in his statements as released. Whether you subpoenaed 10 people or 10,000, including her, was simply not right. So as part of his testimony today, as part of his opening statement today, former President Bill Clinton standing up for his wife, Hillary Clinton, who was deposed for 6 hours yesterday. Now, again, we've got more to come from day 2 of these depositions. We are currently preparing video of a press gaggle that occurred outside of the deposition room earlier today while it was getting started or just before it had started. Now, in the meantime, let's go ahead and pull up some new polling from Ipsos regarding some of what's been happening here in the United States of America. Now, again, Ipsos is a polling resource that we will use from time to time, and they will, go over various topics in regards to American life and largely major stories in the news, major things that are happening here in the United States. So, what do we have here today? Well, the Americans disapproving of Trump's handling of tariffs on imported goods. Views of Trump's handling of the economy tilt negative. 57% disapprove. Americans have more negative views of Trump's handling of tariffs on imported goods. 64% disapprove. And inflation, 65% disapprove of President Donald Trump's handling of those particular topics. Now, of course, his handling of tariffs very much in the news, as last week the Supreme Court overruled by a vote of 6-3 the tariffs that he established early in his second term. Essentially, more specifically, rather, they overruled the mechanism by which he imposed those tariffs. He has since said he'll be using other mechanisms and he'll be imposing more tariffs. But Americans, by a 64% margin, according to this particular poll, saying that they disapprove of his handling of tariffs. Now, that remains stable compared to the polling conducted in 2025 by this same source. It is a combination of Ipsos, which is the website that you're seeing on your screen here, or perhaps not. We got rid of the. Can we bring that up just for another second? I just want to go over one or two more of these since we kind of got started on it, and then we'll get to our coverage of the depositions once again. Now, Republicans largely approve of Trump's handling of tariffs. 75% of Republicans do approve of how Trump has handled tariffs. The majority of Democrats, 95%, and independents, 72%, disapprove. So 72% of independents disapprove, but again, 75% of Republicans approve. Now, 48% of Americans say the economy has gotten worse since Trump became president, compared to 29% that say it has gotten better. 69% of Republicans say the economy has gotten better. 52% of independents say the economy has gotten worse. 84% of Democrats say the economy has gotten worse. And the last thing we'll go over, at least for today, as you can see, there are questions about immigration policy and enforcement as well. We'll stick with tariffs just for this portion. Americans are split on which politicians they trust to best handle reducing the cost of living in the U.S. Equal shares say they trust Trump, 32%, and Democrats in Congress, 31%. 33% of Americans, a greater number, obviously, than those other two samples, say they trust neither Trump nor Democrats in Congress to best handle reducing the cost of living in the United States, 33%, the highest of those three numbers. And just 4% say they trust both Trump and Democrats in Congress equally, speaking to the bipartisan nature of so much of our politics now. So we may have time to go over more of this poll in the future, but since we weren't able to hear from President Trump, we figured we would at least touch on one of those major headlines that we've been covering through the State of the Union and into last week. Okay, let's get back to our coverage of these depositions in regards to Bill and Hillary Clinton. These are lawmakers speaking outside of the deposition room either before it started today or right as it was getting started. I believe before it started. We don't have the exact timeline on that, but earlier today nonetheless. Let's take a listen in on the day of former President Bill Clinton's historic testimony before the House Oversight Committee.
Good morning. This is a historical day for the United States Congress. We have listened to people all across America who have kept up with the whole Epstein investigation and are outraged by the obvious fact that men and women, for that matter, of great power and great wealth from all across the world have been able to get away with a lot of heinous crimes, and they haven't been held accountable, and they haven't even had to answer questions about what they knew and when they knew it. Today, we hope to be able to do as we did yesterday and continue to bring some of the most powerful people in the world in to answer questions. Again, no one's accusing anyone of any wrongdoing, but I think the American people have a lot of questions, and our House Oversight Committee is committed to getting answers. We're committed to transparency. We've already seen a lot of very powerful people who have been held accountable by having to resign in disgrace from various boards all over the world. We're going to continue to seek the truth, try to figure out how the government failed the victims, and try to hopefully hold more people accountable. That's what the purpose of this investigation is. I will say this, it's very difficult to get people in for these depositions of great power and great wealth. And I used yesterday and today as an example. It took 7 months to get the Clintons in here. But we've got them in here, and we look forward to asking lots of questions that I think any curious media outlet in America would have. Yesterday, Ms. Clinton deferred a lot of questions to her husband today. There were at least a dozen times when she said, "You'll have to ask my husband that. I can't answer that." So we already had a big portfolio of questions for him, and that increased yesterday. So we look forward to that. We'll be happy to answer a couple of questions.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Explain to us specifically what you need to hear from President Clinton today. What do you want to know?
Well, I think everyone's seen there are a lot of photos that have been released by the Department of Justice as well as the Epstein estate. There are a lot of email correspondence that included President Clinton. We know President Clinton had, and Secretary Clinton confirmed this yesterday, Jeffrey Epstein was in the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. We know that Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 27 times. So those are questions that we're going to ask. Everything that most media outlets have reported with respect to pictures and correspondence between Epstein, Maxwell, and Bill Clinton. These are all questions that we're going to ask today.
Mr. Chairman. Yesterday you both told me that you were planning on asking about an email that Howard Lutnick sent to Jeffrey Epstein, I presume about a Hillary Clinton fundraiser. I think that was the one. If he's worth asking about, is he not worth asking in to talk about what he might know?
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting when we hopefully get that video out later today or tomorrow as quick as we can get it out. I think it'll be interesting what Hillary Clinton said about Howard Lutnick.
And how she said it.
And how she said it. We looked, I think that was Ms. Mace with the line of questioning. So there was a pretty thorough line of questioning yesterday between Ms. Mace and Ms. Clinton with respect to Lutnick. Now, I think you all find it very interesting what she had to say. But we're going to continue to ask questions of everyone that shows up in photos on the island and things like that.
So I'll ask for the Commerce Secretary.
I will be asking him, yes.
You will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, we've heard from Secretary Clinton after her deposition. She described the session as repetitive. She said it veered off topic. She was asked about things like UFOs, Pizzagate. Can you explain why those topics were brought up, and also in light of the release of that photo?
And she also said there were substantive questions yesterday, too. But one reason there were repetitive questions about Epstein is because we went through every email and every correspondence that implied Hillary Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein communicated often. You all have seen the email where he said that she looks better in person and all of that. Those were questions we asked. So every item of evidence that would suggest Hillary Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein had a close relationship, we went and asked about that. So it may have seemed repetitive because there was a lot of documentation that would suggest that she had a relationship with Epstein.
And
so,
to be clear, Secretary Clinton actually asked
the microphone,
about the NDAA.
please.
Sorry. to be clear, Secretary Clinton actually asked us about what happened with the disclosure language in the NDAA. So, I mean, I know she's trying to pivot from the fact that she's here and she had a very close relationship regarding the Clinton Foundation and Epstein and Maxwell. But the point is and I think I'd like to hit on this with probably Ms. Mace here, but I think we have a very important interest in curiosity about what specifically the co-conspirators had a role in all this, right? We know for a fact that some of these were women, and I think that today, at least with my line of questioning, I'm curious about that. Why is it that these women were given plea deals as adults for trafficking minors? How much of that did they witness, et cetera? And so, I don't know that Secretary Clinton was all that honest about the context of this investigation. We asked extensively about intelligence ties, whether or not she felt that she was targeted as a result of possibly an intelligence gathering operation. And she was very curiously interested in that. And then also, you'll hear it in the response, but had told us to follow up with a few countries, one of which is our ally. So that's interesting.
A question for the chairman.
Ms. Luna brought up a good point about the Clinton Foundation. There's so many examples in the evidence the Department of Justice released in correspondence where Epstein bragged about how involved he was initially in setting up the Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton Foundation. We asked those questions to Secretary Clinton yesterday, and she kept saying, well, she was in the Senate at the time. She wasn't focused on it. You'll have to ask my husband. So a lot of the Clinton Global Initiative questions yesterday went unanswered because Ms. Clinton deferred to her husband. So we'll do one more question.
It's our understanding that you guys asked Secretary Clinton yesterday about photos of her husband in the Epstein files. What was her reaction when you showed various photos, for example, of her husband in the jacuzzi that we've seen?
I'm going to let Ms. Mace answer that. We're on TV.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything. No, she didn't want to answer any questions about any of that and deferred most of those, if not all of those questions to her husband, and he will be thoroughly asked about that today. What did he know? What did he see? Because there are other people who've come forward publicly, like Kevin Spacey, who thought all of this was very strange and actually a very high risk for a president of the United States or former president. It's all very bizarre, but I asked her very pointed questions, and you'll see that in the transcript and the video that comes out, and you'll see how she responded as well, screaming.
And we'll close with this. We're going to get the video out as quickly as we can get it uploaded and the sound and everything from yesterday. So this is, for all practical purposes, a public deposition. The American people are going to see it. I've heard C-SPAN's going to air it wire to wire. So everyone's going to see what was asked yesterday. And I think that'll answer a lot of questions, especially with Lutnick and other things like that. Throughout the day, we'll try to send different members out to give you brief updates. We don't want to disclose what's going on in the deposition specifically until at the conclusion, but we'll keep you updated, and we appreciate everyone being here and look forward to updating you throughout the day.
Ms. Mace, what do you mean that Hillary Clinton was screaming?
She was unhinged, and I hope that President Clinton is less unhinged today than his wife was yesterday. You'll see it.
Why do you think she had a relationship?
Say again?
Why do you think she had a relationship?
Well, he was basically instrumental, for his words, and I think you'll find out from Clinton today in setting up the Clinton program.
Congressman, who's the ally you were referring to?
Who's the ally?
The biggest thing is we need transparency, accountability, and we need justice for the victims, and we need to make sure we find out how can we write laws to prevent human trafficking and prevent people of that evil level infiltrating the highest levels of government. Thank you.
Oversight Dems are going to gaggle in just a second.
It's not the best.
Okay, so there you have it. A group of lawmakers speaking outside of Bill Clinton's deposition today after Hillary Clinton's deposition yesterday. We, of course, heard from Hillary at the very beginning of our stream in regards to how her own deposition went. So it'll be interesting to see if former President Bill Clinton speaks in a similar manner at the podium after his own deposition. And of course, keep in mind, these things have begun in the afternoon, even early afternoon. When we heard from Hillary Clinton yesterday, the sun was going down at that very same location. 6 hours of deposition. Some reports have today's deposition expected to be even longer. So waiting and seeing as this historic moment happens, the first time a former president has ever been compelled to testify before a congressional committee. Okay, we're going to shift gears here. We're going to hone in on Hampton Roads. We got the weekend coming up, so you know we got to get a forecast in, which is the perfect time for meteorologist Evan Stewart to join us here today. Evan, what's going on? Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Great to be here. And yeah, we're looking at cloudy skies. There's still some showers in a few spots out there this afternoon, but the weekend looking pretty nice. The one caveat, coastal areas might, if we get this onshore breeze, might be a little bit cooler. We might see that marine layer try to develop and come ashore. But right now, for the most part, the weekend's looking pretty good. We just got to get through this afternoon. Pretty cloudy out there as we take a look at our sky view cameras across the area. There has been some brightening at times, not looking like much up in, excuse me, up in Hampton, and it has clouded up again. In Newport News, we did have some brightening there a little bit earlier, and we are tracking, some of those showers that have been rolling through here as we've gone into the afternoon. They've sort of been working their way out of North Carolina. Best chances for showers, mainly south side into northeastern North Carolina, and we do have some heavier rain as you get your way down here through the Pamlico Sound, Dare County, Hyde County, up along the Outer Banks, and then until we get closer to the state line, starts to break up a bit, but still even through southern Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, and Suffolk, Norfolk, Portsmouth, we do have a few sprinkles and a few showers out there and some cool temperatures. If you haven't been outside, it's only in the 40s right now, 43 Norfolk, 45 Elizabeth City, 47 in Edenton. We have seen the clouds break up a little bit off towards the north. That's why temperatures around Richmond, Tappahannock, West Point, and Williamsburg have been able to spike a little bit up into the low 50s.
I say those guys deserve a little bit of a spike in temperatures up there. Throughout this month of February, they have been subjected to some very, very difficult snowy, wintry weather. So it's good to see that we're up into the 50s in Williamsburg and Richmond here.
Yeah, although then again, remember North Carolina picked up more snow from that other storm earlier.
Right.
So
that's right. Everybody's had their day here this particular winter.
Tim and I were looking at a map, and I don't have it. It was online. But it pretty much showed, south of Metro Hampton Roads, west of Metro Hampton Roads, north of Metro Hampton Roads, a foot of snow. And we haven't seen that much here.
It was a very, very cold, snowy winter that we had here. Like we said, we didn't have that one monster snowfall, but we just had pretty consistent, we're going to have some wintry mix here. We're going to have some snowfall there. So quite the snow. But we're on our way here. I mean, we are headed for warmer pastures.
Yes, we are. As we look ahead towards the weekend tomorrow, 57 on Saturday, partly sunny, and we're going low 60s as we get into the day on Sunday. Now, I mentioned that chance at some of that morning fog, so I want to sort of break that down a little bit more. Take a look here at Futurecast because it's doing, I think, a pretty good job of showing where, that fog will likely try to develop. So this is Futurecast taking us through this afternoon. We see the clouds and the rain really start to break up across the area. That's good news. And then as we get into the evening, still might be some showers that linger down here across North Carolina, temperatures in the 40s. And as we get into tomorrow morning, what you can kind of see here developing right along the coastline and down into coastal North Carolina, that's that marine layer. That's the fog that is going to try to work its way inland as we go through the day, and you can sort of just see how it hugs the coastline here. Temperatures in the 40s. That could even try to make its way towards Virginia Beach. And you notice once you get inland, temperatures in the 60s and good deal of sunshine. And we see that a lot of times when we have the cold air, the cold water and some warmer air aloft, we get that fog that forms. So I think that potential is there on Saturday, maybe a little bit of a better chance into Sunday. Notice that layer sort of stays there and expands even into Sunday morning. So I think the potential is there. We've seen several days over the last couple of weeks where we've had dense fog advisories and dense fog in the mornings. I think that potential is certainly there. Sunday morning, some widespread dense fog as we start things off Sunday morning. But then as we get into the afternoon, we're back up into the 50s, 60s, and maybe even near 70 degrees in inland spots.
And the fog has dissipated by this time?
For most places, it'll have burned off. It might still linger, in some of these areas closer to the coastline again where it's cooler, eastern shore, and down through the Outer Banks.
Okay. All right. Very good. So a little bit of fog on Sunday, but still plenty of warmth to go with it, especially as we make our way through the day. And, I did make the mistake of looking into next week. I know Monday and Tuesday there are some things going on, but it looks like a consistent period of possible warm temperatures, maybe even 3 or 4 days in a row.
Yeah, as we take a look at the temperature trend over the next 10 days,
here we go.
Once we get past, really Monday and Tuesday, those temperatures back above average, and possibly even some 70s in the area as we get into next weekend.
This is quite possibly the most encouraging graphic I have seen in 6 months. This is phenomenal stuff right here. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. Look at all those days in the 60s in a row. No random 40-degree day in there. No dip into cold, frigid temps. This is great.
There is one downside, but it's also a positive.
Okay.
So Saturday and Sunday, temperatures in the 60s.
Yeah.
But we're only going to get 47 hours of that because daylight saving time starts. So, we lose an hour of that weekend. We lose an hour of sleep.
That's right.
But we gain, or we don't really gain any sunlight. We just adjust it an hour later.
Right. The sunlight continues to do what it's going to do.
Right.
We just change our periods of observation of it. But that's okay because I love getting out of work and there's still a little sunlight left.
Yes.
Perhaps go for an outdoor some tapas, or something of that nature. A walk, perhaps, Naya. A game of pickleball. I mean, the possibilities are.
Are you hanging out with Moeller?
And Craig Moeller does a lot of pickleball.
Yes.
This guy, Craig Moeller, I don't know if you guys remember him. He's been on a little vacation here, a well-deserved vacation. Pickleball. Is he a professional?
I don't know. Well, he doesn't get paid. So
he does not get paid,
no,
but he should because he plays an unbelievable amount of pickleball. Okay, this is fantastic. I'm so happy to see this here.
Yeah, so a nice little warm-up in there. And again, I know a lot of us are happy about daylight saving time. And, just by nature, of the seasons changing, we gain about 2 minutes of sunlight each day. Each day the sun rises about a minute earlier and sets about a minute later. So we do gain a decent amount of sunshine here coming up in the month of March.
We love it. We love sunshine. And yesterday we did a story at 4 o'clock. Myself, Evan Stewart were both there where they talked about how that change in daylight savings, that shift forward can disturb people's sleep, which can lead to some health problems. And really at the conclusion of that story, it was, hey, if your health problems persist, of course, go to the doctor as always. But in the meantime, in the beginning, go outside, get more sunlight, get more vitamins, and that should help with maybe any. So it matches up well. The sun comes out right as we maybe start to need it because we lose that hour of sleep and kind of have to change our body clocks a little bit. Whoa, look at this jump.
Yes.
Here we go.
So, of course, obviously with the time change in there, but, you notice as we get into the end of March, our sunset's 7:30 almost. And I don't know, Hunter made this graphic. I don't know if he intentionally picked tax day for that, but I think he was just picking mid-April. You're looking at sunsets around 4:39.
This was not intentional?
7:39, excuse me, yeah.
This was an accidental tax day choice.
That's right.
All right, here we go. Let's do favorite activities to do during a sunset. Evan, you first, then People's Producer Nia Campbell.
Oh, I thought we already did this.
No. Did we?
Remember we were talking? Oh no, you were talking about our favorite beach sunset.
Was I?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
It has become clear within 10 seconds of this question that I just enjoy sunsets too much, and I'm recycling old questions that I already did, just so that we can keep talking about sunsets.
Why do you prefer sunsets to sunrises?
Well, I've always been more of a nighttime person.
Same here.
Than a morning person. Naya?
I like mornings.
Okay, nice in the mornings. A little bit of variety. That's good.
Maybe I'm not as talkative in the mornings, but I do.
But you enjoy them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sunrises are just too early.
Sunrises are quite early,
Yes.
and I also like going from the super bright to the darkness as opposed to darkness to bright. I love the cool down rather than the power up.
Yeah, you know how they have the apps on your phones that change it to red to take out the blues. that's just a version of what nature is doing automatically for us.
We're creating technology that already exists in the natural world all around us, and yet we find new ways to recreate it.
But yeah, and it resets your circadian rhythms, gets your gets your biological, well, not your biological, well, it is in some sense your biological clock. Those rhythms getting you more primed. The relaxing evenings. Yeah, I'm more of a night owl. I'd rather be going to bed at 2 a.m. than waking up at 2 a.m. like our good friends on the morning show. God bless them.
Right there with you. Yeah. Waking up at 2 a.m. is insane. That is nuts. That is nuts right there. And for myself, and I know for you as well, Evan, with a lot of the stuff that we talk about is if you become one of those morning people who is truly a sort of Mark Wahlberg style 4 a.m., riser, that means you're going to bed before any good sports have happened.
That's right.
You lose your entire. You can't watch late games, football, basketball, hockey. You can't so. It definitely a more of a night owl for me. Though adult, I have found that every year I wake up a little bit earlier. I don't know what that is. If that's just me getting old, or if that's just the demands of the job force you a little earlier and a little earlier. My schedule's changed a tad, so I don't know if that is a trend that will continue, but it's saddening.
Yeah, no, mine is definitely all based on what time I'm working, what shift I'm working.
What time am I working? What shift do I have? Now, Naya, you strike me as someone who you wake up in the morning before work and you actually get some stuff done.
Yeah, sometimes. I try to.
See, that's a whole different thing for me. If I'm up in the morning, it's strictly mental preparation to enter society. That's all it is. It's coffee, it's quiet thought, it's maybe some movement if I'm really feeling good. But I don't actually get errands done or tasks done in the morning time.
I have to, because I feel like at nighttime I don't like doing anything. Once I get off work, I'm ready to go home, settle in,
crash,
cook dinner.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Evan, when are you getting your stuff done?
I mean, I kind of split it. It kind of depends on which shift I'm working, but I try to get a lot of stuff done before work.
Yeah.
And then sometimes leftover laundry. Might have sat in the wash machine. I washed it in the morning and might not get into the dryer until I get home in the afternoon.
Whoa, Naya! Whoa, Evan! What? I don't think you could do that.
Yeah, you
can't leave clothes in the wash. They're dampening up. Maybe they're extra clean.
That's right.
The soap and the water has really soaked in there.
Yeah, I don't think there's a big problem waiting. The same day.
Same day. Yeah. Okay, we'll give it a same day. I take it back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
did not mean to overreact.
I don't know. Maybe there are people out there who know better than me, but
we might need to bring an expert in on this.
Yeah, I think. Where's the Whirlpool guy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That will be our question of the week. We are going to do some investigating. We're going to do some reporting. Are there negative or positive effects to leaving your laundry in for a while before shifting it over to the washing portion? And Evan, I jumped on you there, but I won't say that I haven't done that a time or two myself.
Well, I just did a quick search, and according to Mr. Google and his AI, wet clothes can safely sit in the washing machine for about 8 to 12 hours before they start to develop musty, moldy odor, according to Erie Station Village townhouses and apartments and Coco Laundry, wherever the heck they are.
I did not know this. And Erie Station apartment lounges and Coco Laundries is a tremendous resource. Yes. I'm glad that they were able to help us figure this out.
Let's see, 1 to 8 hours generally safe, 8 to 12. That's according to Fresh and Clean Laundry.
Okay.
And over 12 to 24 hours, then you start running into issues.
Once you get to 24 hours, you might as well just throw those clothes away, or just start that washer right up again. 24 hours is no, that is too long.
But see, I don't like to leave the washing machine or the dryer or the dishwasher running when I'm not at home.
Oh, interesting.
Because if there's a problem,
you're not there,
and you're not there.
That's a great point.
You could have big issues. So I never leave home, with the washing machine or the dryer or the dishwasher running.
Did we get a forecast from Evan Stewart today? Yes, of course. Did we also get another round of incredible wisdom from Evan Stewart about random tangents that we choose to go down? Yes, of course we did.
We always do. Yes.
Always.
Evan, you want to look? I don't know how much time you have left. You want to look at ski cameras?
We're doing all right. I don't think we have time for ski cameras, only because we have got a live event happening right now outside of this deposition that we've been covering all day. But next week, we'll definitely hop in on some ski cameras.
Sounds good.
Evan, you're the best. We appreciate you as always. And as stated before, we usually would take a break here, but because this press conference just started outside of the Clinton deposition, we are going to go immediately out to New York and take that opportunity live.
That accuse him of a crime, whereas there are publicly available documents that do allege a crime of President Trump. But it is very well established that President Clinton had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and we are treating this investigation extraordinarily seriously. And when you see the recorded deposition, you will see that we asked all of the hard questions, centering the survivors, making sure that we get to the bottom of where there are discrepancies in the record, and understanding how not only the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein committed could go on, but why there was a culture that surrounded him wherein the rich and powerful turned a blind eye. And with that, I turn it back to our ranking member.
Hello, everybody. Congressman Maxwell Frost. First off, I just thank you to President Clinton for coming here today to speak with us. Answering these questions has been helpful for us as we will continue this investigation. Donald Trump, as we know, needs to come before this committee. He's been caught in multiple lies as it relates to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I can tell you I've seen unredacted files myself that directly refute his assertion that he kicked out Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago and the reasoning why he did that. Also, walking out of this, I can tell you we all now have a lot of new questions that we have to raise as it relates to the reasoning on why Donald Trump had a falling out with Jeffrey Epstein in the first place. Another thing is that I saw about an hour ago, Donald Trump in a press conference said that Howard Lutnick is, quote, a very innocent guy. Donald Trump has asserted many times that he knew nothing of Epstein's crimes. If he doesn't know anything about Epstein's crimes, how can he know for sure that Howard Lutnick is, quote, a very innocent guy? We have questions for him. And I think what today is showing and what yesterday is showing is, of course, no one's above the law. That includes the President of the United States. And my hope is that our Republican colleagues, as we walk out of here today and go back to D.C., will join us in making sure that we can hear from Howard Lutnick, from Pam Bondi, and from President Trump.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, representing Arizona's 3rd District. I think today was a historic day for transparency in the United States of America. The fact that we have the former President of the United States, Bill Clinton, under oath, speaking to the Oversight Committee and answering questions in a transparent manner is critical. I look forward to the Republican majority listening to our demands of having the transcripts and the videos unedited of both depositions, today's and yesterday's, released immediately, because the American public deserves to hear and see these answers for themselves. And ultimately, this demonstrates that nobody is above the law. And my top concern at this moment is the ongoing White House cover-up. It is deeply concerning that we are seeing a very coordinated machine from the President of the United States continuously repeating that he has been exonerated. He just repeated that today, to members of the Republican Party on the Oversight Committee repeating that lie as well. There are very credible allegations that have been looked into and investigated by the FBI that the Department of Justice is illegally withholding. Please do not stop asking about this. Why is the DOJ continuing to defy the Epstein Files Transparency Act by refusing to release the full Epstein files, by illegally withholding information, by deleting photos and videos of people like Howard Lutnick? This is unacceptable. Donald Trump must be deposed immediately in front of this committee, as do many senior level officials from this administration.
I'm Congressman Suhas Subramaniam from Virginia. If there was any doubt before today that oversight Democrats are treating this investigation in a nonpartisan way, it'll be put to rest when the transcripts come out. We've been asking the former president the hard questions. To his credit, he has answered every single question. He's not taken the Fifth Amendment. He's been actually quite comfortable, and he's actually given very long, deliberate answers to all these questions. And so We appreciate the former president being here today, and we would like to see the current president come before us as well and give the same kind of transparency that President Clinton has given us today. And we're going to continue to demand the release of the files and continue to demand transparency of this administration.
Two quick points. Wesley Bell, Congressman, Missouri's 1st District. First and foremost, President Clinton came here and answered tough questions. I think the victims and survivors, the American public deserve a serious investigation, because thus far what we're seeing from Republicans is a very non-serious, as one of my colleagues referred to it, as a clown show. And having led serious investigations, I can't disagree. When we hear members from the other side coming into a deposition with conclusions, get no evidence to support those conclusions, and then announce to the world that these conclusions must be true. That is unprofessional, it's unethical, and at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is get to the bottom of what actually happened so that we can hold any offenders accountable. Democrats are doing that. The president and former First Lady have done that, and now it's time for President Trump to do the exact same thing. Under oath, not when you can just make statements randomly on X or Truth Social, but under oath where your right hand is in the air and there are consequences if you don't tell the truth. And so we're going to continue to push for transparency. We're going to continue to push for justice, because that's what the American people and the survivors deserve.
I think I'll just make a couple brief comments, and then I'll answer one or two questions. And then the deposition right now is on a break, and so we'll reconvene. There'll be some additional hours of questioning by both the Democratic side and the Republican side as the afternoon goes on. I want to just reiterate a couple things that have been made, which are important. The first is that we are thankful that President Clinton came in and answered tough questions from both the minority party and the majority party. We also think it's important to note that, and he made some of these statements in his opening statement, he made it clear once again that he does not understand, nor do we, why we spent so much time yesterday grilling Secretary Clinton when she obviously had no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein and had never met Jeffrey Epstein. We also want to reiterate, and I think it's important for us to know, our call yesterday, because of transparency, it is so important that we continue to release both Secretary Clinton's deposition and President Clinton's deposition. Both of the Clintons are committed to these records getting out as soon as possible, and oversight Democrats agree. The best way of going forward is for there to be transparency and a full public record, and we're demanding that that record not be edited, but just a full recording of what transpired yesterday and what will continue to transpire today through the course of the day. And finally, let me just also say once again that we have a new precedent in this country where we can now demand president and former presidents to testify in front of the Oversight Committee. So we are once again demanding that now President Trump, who was in the Epstein files almost more than anyone else besides Ghislaine Maxwell, answer our questions. This is not a hoax. He has not been exonerated, and we have serious questions for President Trump. And with that, we'll answer a couple questions.
Chairman Comer just came out and said that in this last questioning, you asked President Clinton if he thought President Trump should come and testify, and Chairman Comer said that President Clinton's response was that it was for you to decide, and Clinton went on to say that President Trump has never said anything to him to make him think he was involved. Now, obviously, we don't have the transcript of this, but I would love to
I think the best response to that is for you to view the complete record of what actually he said, which, look, we're not going to disclose what was said because that's not in the rules. The Republicans keep breaking the rules. But I think to what Mr. Frost said earlier, there was, I think that President Clinton, did bring up some additional information about some discussions with President Trump. I think that the way Chairman Comer described it, I don't think is a complete accurate description of what actually was said. So let's release the full transcript so that you can get a full record of what actually was said, which brings up some very important new questions about comments that President Trump has actually said in the past. Any other questions?
Congressman.
Yes. I think everybody would agree that he's been very cooperative, and he's actually answering the questions fairly. I mean, to the best of his ability. He has not taken a pass on pleading the fifth for any questions. He's been very thorough. He's been asked some questions multiple times over. I think you'll see that in the transcript. So he's been very cooperative, and in fact, I don't think has given any sense that he's been uncomfortable to be there. In fact, I think he's been pretty interested in answering, I think, all the questions of both the Republicans and the Democrats. With that, we're going to wrap up. Everyone's going to break, and then we'll continue. Thank you very much.
Angel, anything you want to say? Who knows? I feel good.
All right, so more words, more press conferences, more speeches, more everything out at the Clinton deposition. This has been the dominant story of the last 2 days. And again, it is historic because this is the first time that a former president has ever been compelled to testify before a congressional committee. Hillary Clinton yesterday, Bill Clinton today, with lawmakers taking the podium at separate times to discuss this particular deposition. We heard from Republicans earlier, Democrats just now, and now we wait. Now we wait to see more reports that come out about this particular deposition, and we wait to see if former President Clinton will speak himself at this podium as his wife Hillary Clinton did yesterday. All right, for now, we are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hit some more major headlines of the day, including this Warner Bros. Sale that appears to have finally concluded, at least in terms of agreements. And we're going to talk about why it is such an interesting piece of entertainment news, not just entertainment, politics. It's got societal implications, business implications. This story encapsulates a lot of different sectors of society. We're going to have a Guthrie update as well as the search for Nancy Guthrie continues. All of that, however, coming up after this commercial break. Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News. It is 2:12 p.m. here on this Friday afternoon, February 27th afternoon, and we've got a couple more major stories to cover, and then we have a special news segment that we're going to do at the very end of our time here on Live Impact News for you. Now, first, we have to ask the People's producer, Naya Campbell. Naya, how do you think the show is going so far?
It's going well.
Scale of 1 to 10.
I would say an 8. Let's land the plane first.
Okay, an 8. That is better than the vast majority of my report cards. All right, let's dig into a major headline from today that you likely have seen. It's one that's been percolating in Hollywood and elsewhere in the entertainment industry, as well as in Washington, D.C. for some time now, and that is Netflix walking away from the bidding war for Warner Brothers Studios. That bidding war was with Paramount, Skydance Paramount to be specific. And so with Netflix walking away, it appears as though Paramount's latest offer will be the one that acquires Warner Brothers Studios. Now, this is a massive studio. This is DC Comics. This is HBO. This is the Harry Potter series. This is one of the major Hollywood studios for a long time here, and it will be acquired by Skydance Paramount after Netflix walked away from the bidding war. Now, there are a number of layers to this story. We're going to touch on a few of those layers. First of all, Netflix walking away, at least to myself and other observers, is a bit of a shock, especially walking away at this juncture. Now, keep in mind, in 2025, in late 2025, Netflix and Warner Bros. Had agreed to a deal. The sale of Warner Bros. To Netflix was essentially agreed to. Now, Paramount really wanted Warner Brothers, as evidenced by the fact that they began to engage in continuous activity that indicated they could attempt a hostile takeover. They were basically in a hostile takeover. A potential acquirer will bypass a board or management in order to appeal directly to shareholders based sheerly on the size of their offer. And so Paramount at times indicated, or at least their actions indicated, a hostile takeover may be coming. They really wanted to continue to compete for the Warner Brothers Entertainment properties, despite the fact that Netflix had agreed to a deal. Now, Netflix's offer, $27.75 per share, or essentially a total of $83 billion. Now, this would be for Warner Brothers movie studios, streaming services, for a lot of their content when it comes to movies and TV. It would not include their cable assets, however, right? It would include HBO streaming and Warner Brothers Studios, not the cable assets. One of those cable assets, of course, is CNN, one of the largest news entities in the country. So the Netflix offer did not include that. Now, Paramount was given the opportunity to submit some more finalized offers in recent days. That is why this is developing now. In recent days, the window was open for Paramount to make another offer, an enhanced offer. Their latest offer, $31 per share, valued at over $100 billion, somewhere in the $111 to $113 billion range. I saw multiple numbers on this in my research, actually. Now, their offer is for the entire entity, the movie studio, the streaming assets, and the cable television assets, including CNN. That's the Paramount offer. Now, Netflix was given 4 days to respond. And, ostensibly, based on every logical observation of these negotiations, Netflix was well aware of the fact that an increased offer was coming. Based on observations, based on reporting I've seen, Paramount increasing their offer to $31 a share is not something that should have come as a major surprise to Netflix. And they have been eager to acquire this Warner Brothers property based on their public sentiments and all reporting that we have seen. And yet, despite being given 4 days to respond to an offer that they likely would have seen coming, Netflix, in just 2 hours, declined to increase their own offer, calling the new price no longer financially attractive. So Netflix bowing out of a bidding war immediately. They didn't take the 4 days to respond. In 2 hours, they decided against continuing to up their offer against Paramount, which of course means that Skydance Paramount will acquire Warner Brothers. So, what does this mean? Well, there are 5 major movie studios in Hollywood. Let's focus on that part. 5 major movie studios in Hollywood: Universal, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Disney, and Sony. Well, 2 of those movie studios will likely now be merging, Warner Brothers and Paramount, which means that you just took 5 and made it 4. That is a small amount of major movie studios for an industry that is already struggling to get fans to theaters, that is already struggling to hold off streaming services, YouTube, TikTok, all of the other entertainment options at your fingertips. And it has now been consolidated from 5 down to 4. Now, when there is consolidation like that, what does it mean for content, and what does it mean for employees in those 2 companies? That remains to be seen. So that is a major aspect of this that will touch the film industry in a big way. Now, what are some other major factors of this to pay attention to? Well, who owns Skydance Paramount? Okay, that would be David Ellison. As of 1 year ago, David Ellison owned Skydance Media, right? For decades, he was a movie producer, and he owned Skydance Media. Within a year, he has now purchased Paramount, and that new company has now purchased Warner Bros. If this deal makes it through regulatory agencies and actually comes to fruition. Everything we say is based on whether or not this actually is approved by the powers that be. But if it is, David Ellison will have gone from Skydance Media to owning 2 of the 5 major movie studios, along with 2 streaming services and multiple news assets within the span of a year. It is a massive, massive evolution for a cinema mogul, a media mogul now in David Ellison. Now, David Ellison is the son of Larry Ellison. You may have heard of Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is one of the richest people in the entire world. He is the founder of Oracle, which has become one of the most valuable companies in the entire world. And so, Larry Ellison, I want to make sure I get my Ellisons right. Larry Ellison became one of the richest men in the world, and he obviously, David Ellison, his son, has been bankrolled, according to reports, allegedly, by his father, Larry Ellison. And so, Larry Ellison, one of the most powerful and richest men in the world, is bankrolling David Ellison as David Ellison creates this media empire in which he is consolidating a number of major resources when it comes to movie, television, streaming, and news. Okay? So this is a massive acquisition from that standpoint as well. Again, this is all alleged according to reporting that we have seen. Now, when David Ellison acquired Paramount, you may remember some of the political machinations that occurred behind the scenes. Paramount owns CBS, one of the flagship news stations here in the United States, right? Well, CBS, at the time of that acquisition, was in the midst of a lawsuit that was brought against them by President Donald Trump. It was the lawsuit that pertained to a 60 Minutes interview featuring Kamala Harris. President Trump was suing CBS based on some of the editing of that 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. Well, Paramount paid out $16 million to President Donald Trump in order to settle this lawsuit while in the midst of, or while engaging in the opportunity to be purchased by Skydance. So that payment happens in the midst of this merger. Now, of course, anytime there's a merger like this, it has to be approved by government entities like the SEC and the FCC, or the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. So this has to be approved by government entities, and of course, President Donald Trump is at the head of the federal government. So he has paid out $16 million in the midst of that original acquisition. Now, what else happens during that time frame? Well, Stephen Colbert's late night show is canceled. Stephen Colbert's late night show was also one of the more critical of President Donald Trump and his administration. His show was canceled. Now, it was, they said, CBS and Paramount said that it was canceled due to financial reasons, due to the success of the show, due to the evolving media landscape, due to other reasons. But there were some who pointed to Stephen Colbert's continued criticism of President Trump and the timing of the acquisition of the parent company of CBS in the cancellation of Stephen Colbert's late night show. This was a major story that we covered at the time here at 13 News Now. So there were some political machinations behind the acquisition of Paramount, but that sale did go through, and now Paramount is attempting to buy Warner Brothers. CBS, of course, was taken over. Barry Weiss was put in charge of CBS News, and now CNN News has been purchased by that same entity if this deal goes through. So this will impact news, movies, again, streaming services, and television as well. Now, there are a number of other layers that we could continue to dive into, but I think that is the most important parts of this that we can bring to you in an in-depth fashion right now. We also do know that Paramount bid, over $100 billion, that bid did reportedly include foreign sovereign wealth funds, including, again, reportedly money from Saudi Arabia, the fund that has so often now been a part of acquisitions of sports leagues here in America, sports teams elsewhere in the world. The foreign sovereign wealth funds of other countries were also providing equity in the offer that essentially or eventually became Paramount's final offer for Warner Brothers. So that is another interesting wrinkle of this. International politics, national politics, entertainment, the industry that surrounds Los Angeles and Hollywood and content creation. And this dives all the way into these major studios now that have long dominated people's free time attention are now having to compete with YouTube and TikTok. And that's part of the reason that you see major acquisitions like this. And Netflix as well. Netflix, of course, the streaming giant here in the United States at the time. And they walk away from this offer. So more to come on this. There's an entertainment aspect of this as well that we want to get into at some point, just about how this will impact movies and shows that you love to watch. But for now, we wanted to go over some of the major headlines as they pertain to this particular merger. And again, this still must pass through the government agencies that control mergers and acquisitions before it can become official. But for now, this is the current situation. A surprising walkaway for Netflix, according to most of the reporting that we have seen. Okay, let's do a brief update on the Nancy Guthrie disappearance as we continue to have little tiny breadcrumbs of new evidence and new information that come out. The Pima County Sheriff's Department said video obtained by Fox News Digital is part of the investigation into the abduction into Nancy Guthrie. It's a Ring camera 2.5 miles from Guthrie's house, captured a car going by around 2:30 a.m. on Sunday, February 1st, about the time police believe 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her Tucson home by an unknown suspect. The FBI has said it is aware of the footage, and the Sheriff Department has asked homeowners across Pima County to submit their home security footage. Investigators have canvassed an area within 2 miles of Guthrie's home. Investigators have had glimpses of vehicles from various cameras, but as yet have not associated a particular vehicle with Guthrie's kidnapping, according to ABC News. So that is the current update on the Nancy Guthrie investigation. And of course, we continue to hope that she is returned safely to her family. Her daughter, of course, Savannah Guthrie, a $1 million reward for information that leads directly to Nancy Guthrie's safe return, offered up earlier this week as well. Okay, we're going to take one more break. I know that was a lot of talking. I apologize for the extended monologue there. We don't have any sound yet from various entities about this Warner Bros. Deal, so we kind of had to do it off the cuff just here with our voices here. So I apologize for how long that was. We're going to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, more live Impact News. Okay, back here in the studio on Live Impact News. Now, another major headline today that we've been monitoring, that Colin Gray trial in Georgia. We've been following for weeks now. Allegedly, Colt Gray is the perpetrator of a mass shooting at a Georgia high school. Again, that is alleged that he is the perpetrator of a mass shooting at a Georgia high school that took 4 lives and injured 9 others. But it is not Colt Gray that's on trial these last few weeks. It is Colin Gray, his father, with just under 30 charges that he has pled not guilty to. He was on the stand today. We're going to play a portion of his time on the stand in the courtroom in Georgia. Let's go out to the Georgia courtroom now.
Anything that caused you to feel like they're
Now, you do bring it up with Investigator Smith, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But that was an hour and a half into the interview, wasn't it?
Okay.
Before you first bring it up with him.
Okay.
Okay. And you meet with Investigator Smith on September 5th at around 3 o'clock, right?
I'm not sure of the time. What
Does that sound about right? Because you remember you took Jenny first?
Correct.
Okay, so around 3 o'clock sound about
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's around noon of that day that Marcy sends you that text asking what the hell is this, and has the picture of the FBI where it says you didn't come out of your house.
Yes, sir. I remember that text.
So at noon on the 5th, you know the world knows about it. And then in your interview, then it becomes relevant again?
The world knows about
That they'd come to your house.
the FBI.
Well, Jackson County for the FBI.
Oh, yeah. Not necessarily that the world knew. Marcy sent me that text. I didn't make her aware of the situation for obvious reasons.
Okay. So on the 4th, when you're talking to Kelsey Ward, it's not relevant. On the 5th at around noonish, you get that text from Marcy where you find out people know this now. And at 3 o'clock with Investigator Smith, an hour and a half into it, now all of a sudden it's relevant.
I don't know, relevant is the right word. I believe talking to Kelsey, we're talking a matter of hours, short time after the shooting. I'm still in a state of shock, trying to process what all happened.
Okay.
To be able to sit and recollect every single thing that has happened.
I understand. Like little things would be hard to remember.
Not little things, everything. This was I was doing my best just to just get through what questions they were asking, and it was several. It was the next day when I talked to Investigator Smith and had time to kind of process everything.
Well, let me ask you this: the entire conversation with Agent Ward and with Investigator Smith was all about Colt committing a school shooting.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is the only information you've ever had in your life up to this point about Colt and school shooting. And it's police coming to your house. And that didn't pop in your mind.
The way that I left it with Jackson County, Colt was never told to me to be the one that actually did this.
Wasn't it true you were just hiding it from them because then they would think you knew this was coming?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, let's go back. Go back in time. I want to go through this chronologically. The sheriff's office has just come to your house, and that was May 21st, 2023, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, less than 3 weeks later, on June 9th of 2023, Michaela Anderson with defects comes back out to your house for those monthly checks on Colt, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And she asks you, how's Colt's behavior been? And you say Colt's behavior's been okay. You don't mention to her that Jackson County came out to your house 2.5 weeks before.
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. And she asks you again, do you think Colt needs counseling? And you say, nope. Right?
Correct.
Okay. You also don't say anything to Michaela Anderson about planning to move to Barrow County, do you?
I don't think at that point I had actually found a place where we were moving at all. The overall goal originally was try to get to as close to Statham as we could. So I didn't have a dead set place yet.
Right, but that's not what I asked you. I said you didn't say anything to Michaela Anderson about planning to move to Barrow County. Did you?
No, I don't think I did. It was again, nothing set in stone.
No, you just said the final address wasn't set in stone, but you were searching for places near Statham in Barrow County. You just said that.
I did just say that.
Thank
There
you.
was nothing set in stone. It had to be Barrow County.
But you never said anything to her about planning to move, did you?
I did not.
And this is the woman who told you in March she would be coming to your house monthly to check on Colt.
Correct.
It was her job to do this.
Correct.
2 weeks later, you signed the lease at 896 Harrison Mill Road.
Yes, sir.
And you don't let anyone at DFAX ever know about your change of address, do you?
I don't. I think the last conversation I had with Michaela was she was satisfied with everything that was going on. That I think she worded it that I was more than helpful. Colt was polite. I was very pleasant to meet with and looked like we were on the right track. So I did not.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you remember testifying at a bond hearing here in court?
In the very beginning of all this?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, and you swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth, so help you God?
Yep.
You did that? Okay. Do you remember me asking you about DFAX coming out to your house, specifically about Michaela Anderson coming out to your house?
In the beginning, I do believe so. You may have asked that question.
Okay. In fact, I asked, so while you were at 954 River Mist Circle in Jefferson, a DFAX case was opened on your family in November of 2022. And your response was, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I remember that conversation with you. And to further that conversation, you also had asked me if I had ever been arrested. And I had stated that I had not. And in fact, there had been some things 30 years ago, roughly, that had happened. There had been a lot that happened at that point. I've been, arrested. I've been in jail now for a year and a half. And so I'm trying to still process what exactly happened with my son and me being locked up for it. So if I did not remember every single detail that you were asking me at that point, that is my bad.
That's extra bad. Okay.
I did, at the end of the day, we had so many meetings with DFAX here and there, I couldn't, I wasn't sure when I met with her.
All right, well, let me say, so my next question to you was, after you said I wasn't aware of that, I asked, you don't remember them coming out to your house and interviewing you after November of 2022 into May of 2023. Now, this is November-ish of, or October-ish of 24 that I'm asking these questions. It's just been 2 years. And you said, DFAX never interviewed me at that time.
Yeah.
And there wasn't I don't remember, or I can't recall.
Right.
You said they never interviewed me at that time.
Yeah, after 2 years, I didn't remember
Yeah.
that, honestly.
And then I asked, between November of 2022 and May of 2023, they never did a home visit and spoke with you at your home in Jefferson? And you said, no, sir. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yes, sir.
And then I said, in May of 2023, was there a home visit by DFAX where they told you there would be monthly home visits? And you said, no, sir, not at that location. So then I asked, well, not at that location. What location did you have contact with DFAX? And you said, I had contact with DFAX in my home recent here in Bethlehem. I received a phone call at 10:30 at night from a DFAX caseworker that gave me instructions to get in my car and come pick up my younger children. So you're referring to when Tamika Mitchum called you.
Correct.
Again, just completely leaving out the Michaela Anderson stuff.
Totally agree.
The Shonda Goolsby stuff.
Yep, there were multiple DFAX people.
Multiple. And you said, no, sir. Go ahead. Sorry, there were multiple DFAX.
So for me to be able to try to keep track of who all and when I met them without having everything in front of me, I may have misspoke to you, but it was not in an effort to deceive you or anything. I really was just trying to process being arrested, what had happened, and I just You know, I couldn't remember what DFACs I talked to and when.
Okay. Well, I understand completely if there's multiple DFACs involvements, which you just said.
Sure.
Correct?
Yep.
If you have multiple DFACs involvements, getting confused as to which is which. I understand that. But I'm asking you, and you said, no, you only had one contact with DFACs, and that was at your house in Bethlehem when they called to tell you to come pick up your kids.
Most recently, yep.
That's not confusing multiple. That's saying there's only one.
Yeah, I think I was referencing in the moment, like who I was dealing with currently.
So I actually asked you that. So this would have been after June 23rd of 2023, and you said, yes, sir. And then my last question was, and you're saying that you had no contact with DFACs prior to that? And you said, no, sir. You sound pretty adamant, not confused.
Okay.
Let's move on to 8th grade. Now, Colt registers on August 8th, 2023 at Heyman Morris Middle School, correct?
Yes, sir.
But then he withdraws 3 days later on August 11th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he never actually went there.
Correct.
Okay. And then he moves back to Fitzgerald with his mom.
I moved back with Debbie.
But that's where his mom is, right?
Correct.
Okay. And he never attended Heyman Morris before he went down there?
No, sir.
Did he attend school in Fitzgerald?
No, the plan was Debbie was going to sign him up for homeschooling.
Okay. But he never went to school in Fitzgerald?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And it's down there that Colt begins cutting himself.
So I found that out in a weekend trip back home after I was up in Atlanta. Yes, sir.
But that's your understanding of when it was started?
Somewhere in that time frame, yes, sir.
Okay. And I think they show you the pictures
yes, sir,
of Colt's arm?
Yes, sir.
We showed those on the thing?
Yep.
Okay. And is that what they look like when you showed them to you?
He did. That's what they look like, yep.
Okay, so as you heard there, Colin Gray testimony on the stand today in the trial, his own trial in Georgia. Now, we were not able to show extended live footage of that because there have been graphic images, graphic descriptions throughout. We don't want to subject our viewing audience to potential surprising images that could be disturbing, but we wanted to play a little snippet because we've been covering it so in depth, and we will continue to cover it. So that is your look inside the Georgia courtroom for today. Okay, let's take a brief look out in Washington, D.C. We actually have a live shot where you can see the Washington Monument in the background, and in the foreground, student demonstrators protesting ICE. That is what we see here today. You see the camera rotating around, and perhaps another group of students approaching that protest as the numbers continue to grow in Washington, D.C., as students demonstrating against ICE. Now, while we're talking immigration, let's go back to that poll that we read earlier. It's a combination of ABC News, Washington Post, and Ipsos, polling conducted with results coming out today. We talked about some of the numbers, some of the results regarding tariffs and the economy. Let's talk about immigration policy and enforcement now. Americans divided on the question of deporting all of the estimated 14 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States. About half saying they support this policy, 50%, 48% saying they oppose it. Americans are critical of the tactics currently being employed by ICE to enforce immigration laws. 62% versus 31% oppose rather than favor this agency's enforcement tactics. Now, despite this, there is limited support for abolishing ICE altogether. 50% oppose, 37% support. Now, 40% of Americans approve of President Trump's handling of immigration compared to 58% who disapprove. Trump's rating on immigration has fallen about 10 percentage points compared to February of 2025. So a year ago, a 10 percentage point drop compared to last year when it comes to Trump's rating on immigration. Lastly, Americans still slightly more likely to trust Trump to do a better job of handling immigration than to trust Democrats in Congress. 38% to 34%. 34% trusting Democrats in Congress more so than President Trump to handle immigration. And the majority of Americans, 2 in 3, 64% of Americans say they think Trump is out of touch with the concerns of most people in the United States today, compared to 35% that say he is in touch. 39% approve of Trump's handling of the presidency. That's roughly unchanged from a poll in October of 2025, though down 2%. So, again, this is a poll. It includes a random sample of 2,589 United States adults. Interviews were conducted in English and Spanish, and the questions came in the exact order in which we've kind of gone over them with you. So, that is a little bit more of a recap on that Washington Post, Ipsos, ABC News poll that came out today, as we see more demonstrators in Washington, D.C., this time students demonstrating against ICE. Okay, we are going to take a brief commercial break, and then we are going to come back with about 15 minutes left in Live Impact News, not just for the day, but for the week. Please stay with us. We're going to wrap up this show with a new special segment coming up next. Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News. Now, it has been a long week. It's already been a long year, but it's a Friday afternoon. The weekend is in front of us, and here in Hampton Roads, it's going to be relatively warm and sunny. Now, we had a lot of news to cover this week, and so much of what we cover here on Live Impact News is difficult, complicated, albeit extremely important. But every once in a while, we want to dive into some news stories that are maybe a little lighter or a little different, or maybe dive into different areas of society. And so we're going to try to start doing that a little bit on Friday afternoons towards the end of our stream. And in order to do so, one, we have brought on a special guest.
Hi.
Hello, Paige. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Paige Gaffone, one of our most valued coworkers here at 13 News Now, and an expert in all things content.
Yeah.
Now, we are going to pass the hosting duties off to the People's producer, Nia Campbell. She is now the People's host of our Friday headlines as we dive into some of these stories. Nia Campbell, take it away.
All right. So first, our first headline is Punch the Monkey. You've probably seen him before. He's been going viral all month. Punch was born July 26, 2025. He was rejected by his mother shortly after birth. The 7-month-old Japanese monkey grew an attachment to a stuffed orangutan toy, making him a viral sensation. What also made this a viral phenomenon was footage showing him being dragged by an adult monkey at a city zoo in Japan. So a lot of people on social media were asking what's going on with Punch. A lot of people were visiting the zoo and want to know what's the update. The update right now is Punch has now won the hearts of many, and he has grown some friends. And he's been seen hanging out with some other monkeys at the zoo.
Okay, so Punch is the real monkey.
Yes.
And he's got the stuffed monkey who was kind of like his surrogate parent.
Yes.
Did they ever name the stuffed animal? Did they ever give the stuffed animal a name?
I'm not sure.
This is actually the most footage I've watched of this monkey.
It also
right now.
It's extremely endearing in terms of the telling of the story.
It's
but
heartbreaking.
Then you see this
That's
monkey.
why I've kept it off of my timeline.
You're stuck on the fact that it's sad that Punch did not have
friends,
his parents, but now he has a ton of friends.
I know.
And he's got his stuffed monkey. I think it had a happy ending.
Yeah, I only wanted to get to this point. I didn't like it when a week ago we were all still in the somebody help Punch mode.
Yeah.
Oh, so these are new friends. These are week-old friends.
Yeah, well, these are the new friends in this video.
Okay.
Oh, these are the new friends.
Yeah, at first all he had was the orangutan.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
Stuffed animal.
Ah, no, now we have to worry about did his new friend start hanging out with him just because he got famous?
That's what I said.
You gotta be careful.
He's getting the attention.
That's right.
Some
You gotta
clout.
be careful out there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is straight up adorable now that we've come to this point where Punch actually has a bunch of friends. But I do hope that he keeps the stuffed monkey. Don't abandon.
Yeah, where's the monkey?
Don't abandon your only homie for so long. Question for you guys: Did you guys have, like a stuffed animal or a blanket or something that you, Paige? What you got?
I had I had like two. Because I remember I have a picture of me, like a school picture. You know how you get school pictures from elementary school, and they allowed us to bring like whatever you wanted. So I had this little stuffed animal dog that his name was Lucky. This was a fake stuffed animal, obviously.
Yeah.
This was a fake dog.
Wasn't a real dog.
And then I had this little bear called Secure Bear, and I don't know why he was like wearing a shirt that said like Secure. But those were like my two main like stuffed animals growing up. But I love that picture of me with Lucky, my little school picture.
We'll try to get that here. What do you got, Nia? Did you have anything?
I had it was life size when I was younger because it was the same height as me when I was younger. But it's a strawberry shortcake doll.
Oh, cute. I had one summer where I think I wore the same Chicago Bulls t-shirt every single day that summer. I don't know if that totally counts, but it's the closest thing I got.
No.
It's the closest thing I got.
Was it emotional support?
I just thought it was cool.
Okay.
And I liked Michael Jordan.
You're out.
Yeah. I mean, I felt emotionally supported by the Michael Jordan highlights I would watch.
I guess.
So there we go. Okay, Punch, scale of 1 to 10 in terms of cuteness.
10.
10.
It just kind of makes me sad.
Paige is still sad. Paige, we've reached the happy point.
I know.
I'm
also like not a big monkey person. Monkeys scare me.
Not on the top of your favorite animals.
No.
We saw the happy video though.
Yeah, I know.
That is our sign to move on to headline number 2. Now, I will preface this for you, Nia. We talked earlier in the stream, if you're just joining us, or we talked a great deal about the Warner Brothers Paramount merger that will happen if regulatory agencies approve it. We talked about some of the more serious aspects of that story, some of the societal and political implications, things of that nature, some of the business implications. We are going to bring that back as a headline where we focus more on the entertainment aspect of this. Because while it's massively important in many sectors of society, it also governs kind of like what we're all going to watch. So go ahead.
So you hit it all on the head. I feel like what made it a headline for me was from a consumer point of view. And I felt like if Netflix would have got that deal, it would have been crazy for the streaming space. And I feel like consumers would have had to pay a lot more. Yes, we would have got the married.
I was just saying, in a good or bad way?
In a bad way. Only because I feel like we would have gotten all the other films that come with Warner Bros., of course, which would have been a great plus, but we would have been paying a ton more. And a lot of people can already argue that Netflix prices are very high compared to when they first started, of course.
This is very true. I'm worried that Netflix's prices will go up anyway.
They will.
Yeah, because they are going to continue to. This does create a new streaming competitor for Netflix. HBO and Paramount combined maybe can try to start to get up to Netflix's level a little bit. Paramount on its own, kind of one of the less successful streamers. HBO, great content, but doesn't have that wide-ranging user base. Maybe you bring them together.
The great thing about HBO right now, though, HBO Max in particular, is they're still interested in weekly drops in when it comes to their streaming and storytelling. And I think Paramount has been clear that like that's not something that they would necessarily.
You're talking episodic?
Episodic,
Okay.
and like the way that like they drop their episodes is weekly, essentially.
Okay.
It would turn into more of like the Netflix structure of everything dropped at once in a binge method. So I think that would change largely for HBO.
And do you prefer episodic or?
I'm always a weekly girly.
You're a weekly girly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're a little worried about that.
Yeah, and also just like the kind of content that HBO has been acquiring now, they've been like heavily leaning more into what used to be like our traditional network television kind of stuff, like with the bringing in The Pit, and they just like bought a new episodic like cop show, but they're like trying to lean more back into like the standard television structure. And I think Paramount is trying to move away from that structure. So if they buy out HBO Max, I'm pretty sure they're just gonna be like, hey, we're not doing that anymore.
And you like that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. People love The Pit. I'm gonna go over, if you talk about HBO and Warner Brothers movie studios, I'm going to go over some of the properties.
Oh, God,
and I want you guys
crazy.
to tell me what you're most, like, which of these things do you most need to remain untouched and creatively prolific if this does happen? Okay. Coming from Warner Brothers, we've got DC Comics characters. So that's Batman, Superman, okay, 2 heavy hitters, Wonder Woman as well, The Flash. We've also got the Lord of the Rings series. That is a Warner Brothers property. We've also got the Harry Potter series, a Warner Brothers property, massive. And of course, Game of Thrones is an HBO streaming property. And then also this run of films that they've had this year, Sinners, Weapons, One Battle After Another, all from Warner Bros. This year. Warner Bros. Studios is on fire and now getting bought by a company that has a different movie studio as well. Of all the things I mentioned, what are you most like, listen, just please don't touch this, make sure it continues to produce quality content?
I mean, I think overall, like their films, as like I'm more of a TV person, but I think they had such an incredible film year last year in 2025, and it was such. It was like we were on an upward trajectory, and I don't want that to halt. I don't want them to. And those were all original films. What you just said, I think.
Sinners, Weapons, One Battle After Another.
Yeah, they're all original films, and so I don't want it to turn into let's just do another spinoff, do another, I don't know, reboot of that kind. I still want them to put the time into like creating original content because that's what the movies are for.
And you would hope that if this merger does go through, which this could take months, this could take more than a year for this to happen, but we got the news today. You would hope that executives at Paramount would say, this is something you guys do well.
Yeah.
We're not going to we're going to do everything we can to make sure that keeps happening. But you never know when things change. Change is always difficult. What about you, Did any of those strike your fancy? I know you're super into Lord of the Rings.
No, it was actually Harry Potter that I'm super into. My eyes perked up for Harry Potter. But I agree, Paige. I don't really have anything else to add.
Who's your favorite Harry Potter character?
Luna Lovegood.
Harry.
Huh? I'm sorry, that was for me.
What did you say?
I said Luna Lovegood.
Luna Lovegood, and yours is Harry.
Lovegood.
Lovegood, sorry. Okay, I took up too much time. We have one more that's critically important. You guys take it away.
Yes, we have one more headline. This headline was the Traitors finale. Paige, did you watch?
Yeah, I watched the reunion this morning as well.
All right, this is a spoiler alert for anyone watching right now. But our winner is Rob. How do you say his last name? Roche?
Yeah.
Rob. He is a Love Island star, which is crazy because this is the first season where Love Island is actually including Traitors. So for a Love Island superstar to win is big. For Love Island.
It is a big deal, and it's a big deal because he was also a traitor from the very beginning, from the first episode, stayed a traitor the entire time and won solo as a solo winner and solo traitor winner, which is the first time I think that's happened.
Did he get some money for this?
He got $220,000.
Okay, all right. I feel like they got to bump that prize money up a little bit. I guess he probably got some Instagram followers out of it.
I was going to say, a lot of these people already are famous, so they have money to begin with. It's just more for fun.
Yeah, and they do different challenges to earn the money. So it's not like it's just an automatic given. You have to do these challenges.
Okay.
Which also plays into the game and like if someone's going hard, that makes people want to keep them longer.
Yeah.
If they're a gamer, like it's a whole.
If somebody's like, give me one good reason to watch Traitors, what would you guys say?
It's like a mixture of all of these different reality shows, people that you would never think would exist in the same space, occupying that space together, and seeing those types of personalities clash and work together.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Naya, same thing?
Yeah. I feel like it's just such a funny way, not funny, but like fun way to watch the people that you've seen on other shows come together and like deceive each other and like try to point out who's the traitor in the house.
We talk about like the DC Comics universe. This is a reality show universe that they've created with all of these different super characters coming together under one roof. Congratulations to Rob on his victory. And congratulations to everyone who hung with us this entire week, spent time with us here on Live Impact News. We cannot thank you enough. We hoped you liked that little snippet at the end, a little something different. We're going to try to do that every Friday going forward. We're just going to hit some headlines as a palate cleanse as we go into the weekend, as much as everything else we covered. Vitally important, and we appreciate you tuning in for us to cover it, and we hope it's informative for you as we go along. So, for Naya Campbell, I am Connor Reel. Thanks so much for watching Live Impact News.